Good morning. My name is Eli Howes. Can you please tell me your full name?
Good afternoon. My name is Hamid Naveed.
And what shall I call you?
Just call me Hamid.
Okay, now, Hamid, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or are you a student?
Well, I work, and I work full time as a lecturer in English in the Department of ELT at the National University of Modern Languages.
Mm.
So I like my job. It's very rewarding. It's great to see students learning English, and there are students at time when they come for more and more courses. I also like the place where I work.
Mm.
It's
And is,
basically a language university.
yes, is there any kinds of technology that you use at work?
Yes, we do. My favorite subject is teaching listening, and I use an LED for that. So that's the piece of technology that I use in my class. Sometimes we use our phone, and during the COVID, we switched to using Zoom and Google Meet for taking our classes, recording our classes.
Mm.
Yeah, so we use technology.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about snacks. What snacks did you eat when you were younger?
Well, to be honest, I don't remember, but let me try to recall. I remember one thing when I was very young. So we were living in a village, what we call village in Pakistan, and we would go to another place where we had our fields, where our let's say our uncles would do farming. So we would go there and we would walk to that place. So I remember we just take a naan. In Pakistan, we call it roti or chapati. We would take that and we would eat that on our way to that place.
And do you
And
often eat snacks now?
not that much, because I've been having a few health issues, and I'm very particular about my diet.
Mm.
So I try not to. I make sure whatever I'm eating is healthy for me.
Mm.
So if you call, like I eat fruit sometimes, but snacks not that much. And I'm trying to lose some weight as well. So these days,
Do you think that eating snacks is unhealthy?
well, I've been, as I told you, I've been having health issues. So I have been watching lots of videos on YouTube about different aspects of health. So I don't know. Some doctors say, some experts say they're good because if you eat snacks, so then you don't go for a full meal, like you don't eat a heavy meal. So probably in that way is good. Others say, on the other hand, there are some who say that no, they're not good because it spikes your glucose and maybe not good for your health.
Mm.
So I don't know whether they're good or bad, but probably good, yeah, because it finishes your appetite. And then, for example, if I have to eat dinner, for example, I don't eat a full or heavy dinner, heavy.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the weather. Now, do you prefer hot or cold weather?
Well, I love cold weather, and I love that for several reasons. The first reason is during winter, nights are long, and I am a heavy sleeper, so I sleep uninterrupted for like 8 or 10 hours. Another reason is no mosquitoes. In Pakistan, we have, yes, these naughty, annoying mosquitoes, and they bite you. There are many people these days who are infected with dengue. So that's the lighter part. But during winter, I enjoy eating different kinds of food
Mm.
and no noise of the fans. I love watching movies, so it's quiet. I use my headphone, watch movies, and what we usually.
And do you have the habit of checking the weather forecast regularly?
Not regularly, but sometimes, especially when I have to do something important. For example, if I'm going out with family, if I'm going hiking, for example, so I'll check the weather. If I'm going with my family or friends, and if the rain, for example, might affect our trip to that place, so in that case, I do. Or maybe if it's boiling hot, So I check the weather to see how the weather will be, let's say after a few days, but generally not regular.
Mm. Okay, Hamid, we're going to move on to part two, and in this part, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. All right, remember you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Right. I am, as I told you, I am a full-time teacher, but at the same time, I'm doing my PhD. I have to study a lot for that. And recently, I have had this issue with focus. So what I did, for example, in the past, and what I do, I start the reading, and something happens, and it kind of hampers my or dampens my concentration. So I thought, yeah, this something is wasting my time. I should do something about it. And that something was, for example, right now I'm chatting with you, and I have, for example, closed my WhatsApp window, put my phone on silent mode. So that thing is switching off, or if not switching off, putting, let's say, putting my phone on silent mode, closing the WhatsApp tab on my laptop, signing out of my Facebook account, for example. But called not something, but this activity helps me to concentrate. Like now I'm chatting with you, we're doing this interview, so I have closed this kind of a temporarily digital detox for me. I've put my phone on silent mode, and I can't see the screen. I have logged out of my Facebook. So this activity helps me focus. And what I do, and look at my clock, for example, it's 3:21 now. Okay, 3:50. I have to study. And until that time, no phone, no checking email, no WhatsApp, nothing. So I would say this action has helped me to concentrate, to focus more on my studies. And this is what I tell my students as well, because our students are youngsters and they are kind of, they are digital natives, by the way. I'm a digital immigrant. When I was a student, like when I was doing masters 20 years ago, we didn't have these devices. So at that time, we didn't have.
Okay, Hamid, I'm just going to stop you there. You've spoken for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Do you think you will continue this routine in the future?
Yes, I will. I will. I'll switch off my devices for some time and try to concentrate.
Okay, wonderful. So, Hamid, we've been talking about a routine and something that you do that helps you to concentrate. And I'd like to discuss with you one or two more general questions related to this. Um,
Okay.
let's first of all consider concentrating at work. Now, what do you think a boss can do to encourage his or her employees to focus and concentrate at work?
Well, a boss has kind of, I'd say, the boss is being like a thankless job. Like if you're strict, so maybe your subordinates don't like, but I think you have to be strict as a boss. Because a boss should first issue, let's say, a set of directives or instructions. Like, for example, I'm a teacher, so without being told by my boss, though there are general instructions, but without being told, I put on my phone on silent mode, for example. So boss should issue, let's say, straightforward, clear instructions as to how the employees can concentrate.
Hmm.
And maybe there could be training sessions that he or she can organize for his employees
Right, and you
and
mentioned
help them.
it's important for a boss to be strict. Um,
A bit strict, yeah.
uh,
Not very strict, a bit strict, yeah.
well,
Basically, I have a, okay, yeah.
it was for example, a lot of the time now, as people work remotely, it's sometimes harder for bosses to work out whether their staff are being productive. And some bosses and employers will use monitoring devices. So, to, for example, see that their staff are looking at their computers or not checking Facebook. What do you think about these kind of methods?
Yes, if you work remotely and boss wants to keep a check or an eye on you, yes, you have to think of such clever ideas. Yes, so in case of, let's say, when we were we were taking our online classes, we asked our students to turn on their cameras. So maybe a boss can do the same. to ask his director's employees to turn on the camera, or maybe give them a task in a certain time frame. For example, like you have this task and do it till, let's say if it's 3 o'clock, do it till 4, for example. So you know that you don't have much time. You have to do it quickly because the boss
Mm,
is asking for it. Then maybe that will like put you on your toes. Let's say
mm.
that the boss has given me a very little time, and I should do it quickly. So it doesn't give me any room for any kind of, let's say, wasting my time or maybe using social media instead of doing my work.
Yes. And do you think that monitoring staff and giving them rules is always the best way to boost productivity in the workplace?
Well, the answer is both yes and no. So set of instructions being a little bit of strictness, and on the other hand, let's say appreciation, maybe bonuses. So you have to do all these things. Sometimes a little strictness, sometimes verbal appreciation. My boss does that, for example, and whenever we do something good, we're in a meeting, so he asks other employees to clap for Mr. or Miss so and so.
Right.
So
There's
that's a good way,
appreciation
yeah.
and finding that balance between the two.
Exactly, yeah. And if we do something wrong, so he kind of criticizes, but in an indirect way. So I like his way. So it could be through different ways.
Mm,
Verbal appreciation could be certificates,
right.
could be some other incentives.
Yeah, so we're just going to move on and let's talk about productive uses of time. What are some ways that we can use our time productively, and what are some ways that we use our time that are seen as not being productive or useful for our lives?
Well, in the not very distant past, I one day, I don't know how, but I started thinking about my productivity, and I actually think that I like the different activities that I've been doing. So I came up kind of an interesting idea, and that idea is maybe we don't need this notebook now. We have our devices. Probably it's better to write things down
Yeah,
for better productivity.
right.
So
So,
now I've
so
started writing
you
things
think like
down that I
a
have to do
to-do
on a
list
particular
of
day.
activities is a good way.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
what are some
Exactly.
activities that are not a good use of time? So, for example, maybe binge watching television series isn't a good use of time. What other things are
Yes.
not
In
considered
in
good use?
my probably binge watching may still be better. I consider this excessive use of social media to be
Right.
kind of lethal. Yeah, excessive use.
Right.
Yeah, I tell my students, yeah, use social media, don't use it excessively. So I believe that excessive use of social media could be like maybe a non-productive use of your time
Yeah.
because you don't know on social media and hours gone.
Yeah.
So
It's
time
very
flies
true.
when you're
Certainly,
on social
certainly with a
media.
lot of videos, video apps
Exactly.
where you
So,
can swipe
so
and
Shakespeare said that time flies when you're having fun. So I say time flies when you're on the social media. Hours gone and we don't know.
that's
So
certainly
you have to be very careful when it comes to social media.
right. Thank you very much, Hamid. That is the end of the speaking test. So
Thank you
great.
very much.
A very impressive speaking test. I'm looking forward to editing this video because what I like to do is always put some of the high level vocabulary up here at the
Okay.
top,
Okay.
so that students can watch this video and learn all the kind of useful
Okay.
phrases. And you had
So
so
how?
many useful phrases,
Okay. Right.
so
Okay.
much
So
good.
how did I do?
Yeah, I mean, you did it exceptionally well. I'm gonna take the time to watch through this video and then come up with
Okay.
a really definitive answer because when someone's at such a high level like you're an exceptionally high
Okay.
level, you've got to take a lot of care and consideration to make sure that you're giving the right score. And I was wondering if I could ask you some questions about your experience learning English. So you're obviously a teacher yourself. Has language been a passion for you since you were a child?
Uh, both yes and no. Um, In my case, I consider myself a blessed learner for two reasons. Like one reason is I had a great teacher when I was in grade nine, and the other reason is my language learning journey spans over 2 centuries. So I started learning English properly in the 90s, last century, and I'm still learning. So passion, I got interested in languages and English in particular because of that teacher I had. He was a polyglot. He speaks 7 languages, and he taught us English so well. And he would compare different languages. Like we have this concept in this language, we have this in this, and then he would give us examples.
And
So
and
it
so
really,
and so you've probably, because you've been learning English for such a long time, you've probably experimented
yes.
with lots of different styles of learning. Is there a particular style of learning that you feel is maybe the most productive or the most useful in terms of improving vocabulary and general language ability?
I can just share a few ideas like how I have learned English. So I think the first thing is you need to be interested in learning that particular language. So like in my case, I grew interested in ninth grade, and the other thing I did was I was so attentive when I would be using language. Even now, I tell my students, I pick up a book and I start reading something, and maybe in class, for example, when they're listening to something. So I ask my students, what did you do? You notice anything that we can learn from this audio, this piece of audio, or this passage, for example? Usually, students miss that, but then I point it out to them. Like you see, there is this preposition, there is this stress, there is this, there is that. So I think first is interest. You need to be interested. And how can you be interested? What we call motivation. So you will be motivated when you think of the advantages that language bring you. So yes, interest, motivation, uh, attention. Like whenever you're listening to something, so do listen to it attentively. If you're reading something, do it attentively, and engage in activities that you like. You love reading books, so read books. You love, for example, you like watching movies, whatever you like.
Yeah. So earlier
So
in the
yes,
test, we said that well, I said that binge watching series is unproductive, but actually, for a language learner, learning English
it's
can be
not. Yeah,
incredibly productive. Actually.
yes, it is. Yes, and I tell my students you should watch TV series. I usually don't. Yeah, and I don't have any recommendations because I don't watch them myself because I'm busy.
Right.
But I have done a lot of listening and I have watched many movies. The only series I have watched is Game of Thrones. But generally, it's a good idea to watch TV shows because you are exposed to lots and lots of listening, and this is what Stephen Gresham calls comprehensible input.
Yeah.
We learn to
That's right, and especially if you've got the subtitles on as well, because then you're learning how those words look. You're also matching the spelling of a word with a pronunciation, and it's
yeah,
slightly easier as well.
yeah, that could be a good idea, but I don't recommend subtitles that much because then you start reading and you don't enjoy the audio or the video. But yes, beginner level students can do that. But sometimes it's fine, yeah. So I don't recommend it that much. It's better to watch the video. You don't understand what it again. You struggle. When you struggle, then you learn. But if you make everything like a piece of cake for yourself, then maybe you don't learn. So you
Right,
have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit
right,
to be
yeah,
able to
very
learn.
good
Yeah.
advice. And Hamid, you've got a YouTube channel as well. Could you tell us a bit about
Yes.
your YouTube channel?
Yes, I launched it like 6 months ago, and it's Learn English with Hamid. Uh, yes, your viewers should visit and subscribe to my channel. I'm sure they'll like it. I teach general English there. So I teach. There are about 20 videos on grammar, then vocabulary. Yes, I have done 3 videos on speaking. So your students who are IELTS learners, IELTS students, they'll find that very useful. So my channel is growing. Let's see
Yeah,
what
I
happens
would
in
I would
future.
say that also, as well as the speaking, the grammar lessons that you made would be very useful for my viewers.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Because
you must
because what
watch.
you're like, I watched your video recently where you took The Lion King and you took
Mm,
segments from The Lion King and you pointed out the grammar. So a bit about what you were saying about noticing language. You said, "Here's the
exactly.
Lion
Notice.
King,"
Yeah.
and you said, here's one of the lions talking about a story in the past, but notice how they're using the present simple instead." And then you use that
Exactly.
as a model to say, and these are the rules behind the present simple. And that's the kind of thing that's
Exactly.
great for IELTS students that want to kind of level up their grammar.
Exactly. And interestingly, that video has got more viewers than other views than other videos. So you see, like almost like all my viewers are young learners. So young learners like movies and TV shows. So yes, that's a great way to learn English, but you need to focus. You need to be attentive. So yeah, your viewers should watch those lessons and hope they'll find them useful. And I plan to incorporate more clips from movies in the future, but I hope those movies create those directors or producers won't mind that. Let's see.
Right. Oh, that's true. You probably have to be a little
Yes,
bit careful about if you make
careful.
the
Yeah.
clip too long, then you could potentially get in trouble for copyright.
Yes. Exactly.
But for
Yeah.
now, it's a
Let's hope.
wonderful idea. So
Yeah.
you've used The Lion King before. Are there any other movies or series that you've
Ti-
used in your
ti-
lessons?
no, this was like the first time
Right.
I did a short clip from The Lion King,
Hmm.
and no clip from the Titanic. But I was that video is about the present simple tense. So one of the uses of the present simple tense is that is used in plots summaries. Let's say, so when you read the plot of a movie, it's in the present simple tense.
Yeah.
So I took a few lines from the plot of Titanic and I read those lines out on my channel. So there was no clip from Titanic, but this example was from Titanic. Yeah. So hopefully I'll do more such, let's say, I'll incorporate more clips, more examples from movies, TV shows, maybe from TED Talks as well, or maybe from any interview.
Yeah. And I
Let's
like
hope.
that also because you've been a language learner, like you said, for over 30 years. So I love that
Yes.
you come to your lessons with a real expertise in terms of the approach to learning language as well. Has that shaped the kind of videos you make or the kind of content you put on YouTube?
Yet it has. One thing I failed to mention was that I learned grammar so well in my ninth and 10th grade. Still remember, I learned all the tense passive voice. And I came to know that learning grammar was so useful. Helps you to construct sentences and analyze language. So that's why if you go to my channel, you find that there are more and more grammar videos. And I tell my students as well that if you, yeah, there are different ways, but one of the ways is do learn grammar. Don't think it's boring. Yeah, it may be boring, but going to a doctor is also boring. But what to do is so useful. Like if you have some disease, you go to a doctor, you get well. So
Yeah.
yes, grammar lesson may be boring, though I try to make it interesting. But grammar is at the same time very useful. Yeah,
Yeah. I would
improving
say
grammar helps.
especially for the writing test, I would say that grammatical range and accuracy is what stops most people from getting their desired score. So specifically for the writing test, I think in speaking it varies a bit more between the four criteria, because there's fluency, coherence, lexical resource, pronunciation, and grammatical range and accuracy. So in speaking, I feel that usually one person is low in one but higher in the other. But in writing, I would say that the main reason people don't get their score is because of grammatical range and accuracy. So watching your videos would be great to just build
Exactly.
on that kind of that confidence and understanding of how to use English grammar.
Exactly. I think you can get a very high band score in speaking, even if your grammar is not that complex.
Yeah.
Like other criteria, like fluency and coherence and vocabulary, to compensate for maybe you're not very high command of, let's say, grammar. But when it comes to writing, yes, grammar is so important. And you need to know what a simple sentence is, compound sentence is. Should I use a passive voice sometimes? What if I could use a subjunctive, for example? Will it help?
Mm.
So, yes. And generally, when I talk to my students and they ask me tips for how can I improve, let's say, my writing. So one of the tips is improve your grammar,
Mm.
because you can't improve your writing without grammar, and, and it is so important. I even wrote a mail to David Crystal. I'm sure you know David Crystal, and I asked him about the importance of grammar. So, of course, he said it is important, and then he said, read my book, The Glamorous or Unglamorous World of Grammar, or something. He has written a book on grammar. Sorry, I don't remember the exact title, but it's the story of the glamour, is grammar, glamorous or something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, so
Great.
grammar is important, of course, yes.
Great. Yeah. So
And learning it as early as early, like learn it as early as you can. Like it helps me in my language
and because it takes a long time to improve,
Ah,
right? It's the foundation of
exactly,
your language, and as a result of being the foundation, it does take a long time to progress.
exactly. And again, I'll quote David Crystal. According to him, there are about 3,000 to 3,500 grammar rules in English
Wow. I wonder how many of those are all about
language.
articles. Every time I look for the rules and articles to try and help students, I'm like, oh, is it rule number 19 or is it rule
Yeah.
number 25?
Yes, yes.
Especially around.
I think I have also done two videos on articles. Yeah,
Oh,
and
great. Well, that's going to be really useful because I know that articles
can
is
be very tricky. Yes.
an area that a lot of people really struggle with. So
A-
definitely,
a-
viewers, watch Hamid's videos on articles. I'm sure that it's going to really help you with the writing. Hamid, I'm going to stop you there. Thank you very much for coming on. It was a real pleasure
Thank you.
to have you
Thank
here
you very
and to
much.
see an example of such a high level IELTS speaking test. And viewers, if you're watching this, then definitely check out Hamid's YouTube channel. Watch his videos on on grammar, the present simple with the Lion King, and certainly his videos on articles as well.
Yes.
So Hamid, thank you very much.